So the kinds of memes that can pop up on social media, and it's interesting, that kind of boozy mum culture. It's almost like it promotes alcohol as the perfect way to deal with the stress of raising kids, or that's what you're entitled to. That's your reward at the end of the week, or even at the end of every day. But is the tide turning around this? I was interested to read a story in the Courier Mail today, which suggests that the Queensland Network of Alcohol and Other Drug Agencies is finding that sober curiosity is beginning to take hold. So has there been a shift? Faye Lawrence is the founder of Untoxicated, which is an alcohol-free social group, and she's here, alcohol-free, in the studio with me on a Friday afternoon. G'day.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Now, your children are in their 20s.
They are, yes.
I don't know if that means as they get older, you get sort of entitled to more wine or less wine as they go. But I see plenty. I've got young kids and I see plenty of that in my social media feed. Where do you think that comes from?
Look, let's face it, parenting is probably one of the hardest things we're ever going to do. And I think, we use alcohol for pretty much everything. We use it to commiserate, we use it to celebrate, we use it for reward. And so I think to add something else onto your plate when you're already trying to juggle parenthood and work and relationships and all the things, alcohol's a quick fix to try and kind of, take the pressure off at the end of the day, to decompress. So I think sort of to have healthy coping mechanisms is a lot harder for people to do.
But I see more in my social media feed of women talking about wine in relation to parenting and how difficult the week's been, thank God, or, the day's been awful. Then I see blokes in my social media feed with a beer saying, thank God, end of the day, made it, here's the beer. I wonder what that's about.
I think we've probably sort of historically always accepted that men do tend to drink more, and the stats do bear that out. But I think, honestly, I think alcohol companies have kind of hijacked this whole thing about the mummy. So they've intentionally targeted women to make them, purchase more product, essentially. And I think that, women have bought into it hook, line and sinker because it's stressful. It's stressful being a modern woman these days with small children or with children, teenage children, or, just I think the amount that we have to juggle. So I think the alcohol companies have essentially done an exceptionally good job at doing what they do. I
was wondering if we're allowed to whinge if there's kind of a resolution, like to whinge about your day is okay if it's okay now, I've resolved it because I have this, alcohol-based solution. Don't worry too much. It's all right now, rather than just having a flat-out whinge, oh, my God, this week has been terrible.
I think one of the reasons that people, and I certainly myself and my own experience, is to as a coping mechanism. And I think it's much, much harder to look at, okay, what's not really working in my life, or how do I deal with these feelings in a healthy way, or, I need to be exercising more. Those things can just feel like another thing to add on top of the existing load. So I think it's essentially a quick fix. And, who can blame mums? This isn't to sort of, put more judgment onto mums. They already have enough. But I think it's a quick way to deal with everything that you're juggling.
I guess I'm interested in the cultural phenomenon of it, the discussion of it. And last year we saw alcohol consumption increase through COVID.
Yeah.
But then what?
There seems to be sort of differing stats from what I'm seeing on how things have been reported over this period. What prior to that was that women are drinking definitely a lot more. But I think over the last sort of 12 months, we're seeing more of a shift to mindful consumption. And that's this whole sober curious movement. So that's people who are choosing to sometimes, to choose alcohol-free replacements rather than necessarily being on the wine. It's people who are sort of taking notice of how it makes them feel, and they're making choices that are sort of healthier healthier for them, rather than just mindlessly smashing back the Sauv Blanc.
And what sort of evidence is there for that at the moment? Is there much research coming in or any stats to back that up?
I think it's actually something that we're seeing in the UK, the US and Australia. So there are a number of, certainly in what we do at Untoxicated, I'm definitely seeing much more people jumping on board that aren't necessarily people who are sort of rock bottom drinkers or alcoholics or anything like that. They're people that just actually want to reduce their consumption of alcohol. And I think we're seeing that evidence of that in the amount of alcohol-free replacement spirits and beers and everything of massive boom there has been over the last 12 to 18 months, I would say.
And we heard down south, I think it was in Victoria, Melbourne, an alcohol-free bar.
Yes, I know. My members are so excited. We've got an event happening there.
It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. People, look, I think it's not about being anti-alcohol. It's not about saying people shouldn't drink. It's about giving people the options to do something different if that's what they want. And, one of the things that is really difficult for people when they do try and change their alcohol consumption is that, they get a lot of peer pressure. And so to see this become more commonly accepted is really fantastic, I think, for people to make different choices.
Chris from Coolum just wanted to dig a little deeper into that expression, sober curious.
Yeah.
What does it mean, and what's the point of being sober curious?
So I think with sober curiosity, it was actually coined by the author Ruby Warrington, and she wrote a book about it. And I think her approach was to actually have a sense of curiosity. So rather than just saying, I'm never drinking again, and having that all or nothing approach, it's about, okay, how do I feel? Why do I feel like a drink? And when I have that drink, how do I feel about it? And how do I feel the next day? And, rather than just sort of mindless consumption of, wine, beer, whatever it might be, it's about having that curiosity about how you feel. So am I having this drink purely because it's a bit dull? Am I having it because I'm stressed? Am I having it? And when I'm having it, am I enjoying it? And then just having that sense of curiosity and asking yourself the questions and self-reflecting.
This is different to Untoxicated. So what's the focus of your group?
So with Untoxicated, for me personally, I gave up drinking about 3.5 years ago, and I was in a position where I had to give up drinking. I was definitely a problematic alcohol user. There were a couple of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to have fun things to do on the weekend that didn't involve alcohol. But also I wanted to try and give sobriety a bit of an image makeover because it's historically had a pretty bad rap.
Sober as a judge? You don't like that vibe?
Well, not really, no. And so I wanted to sort of normalise it, I suppose, to make it okay to be able to go out and not drink if you don't want to, rather than, don't be so boring and we don't trust people who don't drink, which
you get all the time.
To be honest, that's exactly what I was like before I stopped drinking. And so I just wanted to be able to give people the option. So we don't say you don't have to be, alcohol-free 24/7 to come to any of our events. There's just the only stipulation is no drinking at the event. And so we get people coming for all sorts of reasons. It might be health reasons, it might be cultural reasons, it could just be, any particular reason. They might be pregnant, or it could be any reason that people want to get together without booze. And so what that means is it makes it a bit more appealing because you're not identifying as someone who's got a problem with alcohol by coming to one of our things.
And how's your membership shifted?
It's just grown a lot since I've been doing it. So we've probably got about 7,000 members now in the meetups. We're in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, and we've got a support group online. We've got about 2,600 people in that.
And in the last 12 months, have those numbers moved?
Probably doubled.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And is that because Untoxicated itself is relatively young and so it would be growing anyway, or do you think it's a cultural shift?
I think it's a combination of both. Yeah, I think it's, I think in lockdown, a lot of people, initially what we were seeing, because we were doing online events and Zooms and things like that, I think you initially saw a lot of people having slips or relapses, whatever you want to call it, with the heightened levels of anxiety and obviously the lockdown itself. But I think for a number of people, they actually did take that opportunity to go, not really sure this is sort of serving me that much. This is not really beneficial to me. So I think it is a combination of both, just organic growth for us and also a shift culturally as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming in to talk about it today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Faye Lawrence, the founder of the alcohol-free social group Untoxicated, talking about the shift perhaps in the last 12 months or so. Wondering if it's something that you've noticed in your social circle as well. As always, keen to hear from you and your reflections and experiences on the topics that we talk about here on ABC Radio Brisbane. 1300 222 612 is the number to call.